stretch when you wake up? Inga can tell you all about why you need to do that. I came this morning and stretched with her. You need to get rid of all those kinks so you can wake up good. Wake Now Our Vision, supporting UUFS in 2018 and beyond. That's the title of this message today. Sometimes that's what it takes to get some of us up. It takes a shock to the system sometimes. Sometimes in our nation things happen, in our world things happen that cause us to wake up, to think, boy, we need to do some things differently. There are a lot of reasons to wake up, to be aware of what's going on. Now, 45 years or so ago, I had my first child, and then a year and a half later, I had my second child. Now, before I had my first child, I was very naive about childbirth. I figured the doctor or my mama would just tell me all about it, what I needed to know. So I didn't go read about it or anything. I just went to the doctor, got ready to have the baby. Now, shortly before the time came for me to have the child, the doctor asked me, Jane, do you want to be awake or asleep? I said, well, I want to be awake. I want to know what's going on. I've always wanted to be awake, you know, for things like important occasions in my life. I don't want to sleep through it. I want to be awake. He said, well, that'll be fine. I'll mark that down. I got in the hospital, in the labor room. They had us lined up because the weekend was coming, you know, and they were inducing labor so they wouldn't have to come off the golf course. Shame. So they had us lined up in the labor room, and the doctor, we're all in various stages of our labor and carrying on. Any of you have been in a situation like that, you know, we're carrying on. All of us are. The doctor comes in and he walks over to Wyman and he says, well, let me come check on you, Jane. He said, you're the only one I can talk to. You're the only one that's awake. I said, well, wait a minute. That woman right next to me is just about to scream her head off, you know. These women are awake. He said, no, they're not. They won't remember any of this. They weren't asleep, but they'd given them some kind of drug that they forgot it all. So he said, we can't really put them all the way to sleep, you know, but they won't remember any of this. I said, oh, well, I want to know what's going on. I want to be awake. I don't want somebody else telling me anything. So the next time it came around, I was awake too. I want to be awake. Now, I'm a little bit too much like that, so much that it's sometimes hard, as Greg can share with me, to go to sleep at night. I want to be awake. I want to be awake. I know it's good to rest, but it's something about being in the know, knowing what's going on that is important to me in my life. A little bit too much sometimes. I want to be enlightened too, like the Buddha. Now the Buddha became enlightened after he sat under that tree, and he encourages us to do the same. But that may not be the best word for it, because we use that same word for when we talk about the Enlightenment in history. And really, it's translated a word that precisely means, though, to know. To know. You get it. You finally get it. And you know what it's all about. An example of that is when things happen in our denomination that we were unaware of, that we just sort of weren't realizing there was any kind of problem, and we thought we had no problems with anything like white supremacy. And then we see things happen, and it sort of wakes us up, and we kind of, oh my, and then we do our teach-ins, and gradually, not all at once, but we begin to get some understanding, and begin to have some understanding about not only our denomination, but our congregation, our society. That's one example that we've dealt with recently when we tried to wake up and gain some understanding. Here's Jesus. He's in Gethsemane. Now, Jesus was fully alert when he was in that garden praying. He was understanding about what was happening to him, though he prayed and pleaded for it not. And he asked his closest disciples, he said, stay with me and watch out with me. Stay awake with me and be on watch. But as you remember that story, over and over, they went to sleep. They went to sleep during this crucial time that was easier for them than watching his suffering or dealing with the reality of what was to come. Now, some of us have been there too. Sometimes when things get really, really hard, you don't want to be awake. You just go pull the cover over my head, you know? So I'm not going to put those disciples down too much for that, because that'd probably be pretty hard to deal with. So they just pulled the cover over and went to sleep. But he wakes them up and says, stay awake. Or as we'd say now, stay woke. Stay woke. This is the hashtag you see now if you follow any social media. Stay woke. Basically, as young folks say to us, you know, it's not enough to wake up. You got to stay woke. You can't allow yourself to fall back. You can fall back into complacency. Greg and I had the privilege of hearing Reverend William Barber at not this past General Assembly, but the one before, speak. And he talked a lot about America having a heart problem. He said, what we really have is not, you know, we've got all these other problems, but we got a heart problem. We got a problem with our morals. We got a problem with ethics. We got a problem with how we look and treat each other. It's a heart problem. And over again, he also said, we got to wake up to it, and we got to stay woke. He said what we needed was a defibrillator. Get that heart started again and stay woke. This little kid's sign made the memes going around after the Women's March. I love naps, but I stay woke. Well, that's what I do. I've gotten now where I do try to rest and take a nap or rest up and everything. But I want to stay woke. I want to stay woke. So you do get to rest, but you do need to stay woke. Now, why am I emphasizing waking up and staying woke on this Canvas Thursday evening? I started to say Canvas Sunday, but Canvas Thursday evening and Stewardship Thursday evening, when we are really encouraging you to commit your time and talents and treasure to this fellowship. What has waking up got to do with this? Because I believe that this fellowship, this congregation, and Unitarian Universalism are in unique positions at this very critical time in our history. We are in a very unique position in this community and Unitarian Universalism in this time in our history. We can be a bridge in this community and beyond, and we've been doing that some and continue to do it, connecting folks, standing for peace, liberty, and justice, encouraging growth among ourselves with our children's and youth RE and our Adore RE that's coming up. We're trying to grow and encouraging growth with others, offering growth to the community through activities in our Mind Body Center and more. We are in a very great position here in this congregation to have meaningful things happen in our community if we can wake up and stay awake and support it. But we've just weathered one, haven't we? Fortunately, we lost electricity here too when Irma came through, but we weathered that storm. We even were able, though, to have some folks, come on in, we were able to have some folks come and stay with us. 4 families came and stayed here that were in housing that might not make it through the storm. And they were able to stay Sunday night. Monday, we did lose power. We make it through storms. This congregation has, literally and figuratively. And we must be ready to reach out and reach in love. We must be alert. We must wake up. We must stay woke. Now, we also, though, have to have, come around to it, we have to have the resources needed in order to do this. You can't just wake up and do it without some resources. You got to have something to draw from. We borrowed our theme for this canvas from UUA's Legacy Challenge. They have a legacy challenge called Wake Now Our Vision. It's a collaborative campaign. And the saying is, we are Unitarian Universalists. Together, we can change the world, and we can. Simply put, our goal is to support one another in our work so that we might be better, stronger, and more effective institutions. This is what they're saying, not just our congregation, other congregations, other institutions in the UUA, capable of sharing our talents and expertise in the service of liberal religion. So they have this campaign going on now, and this is the theme, and I thought, I'm going to borrow that, Wake Now Our Vision, for our own campaign, and combine the two in a way to lift up both of these at the same time and let you think about them, how we need to wake up and provide ourselves with the resources we need to do it. Now, let me first of all tell you a little bit about UUA's campaign. They have a campaign in which they're going to match some legacy gifts. What's a legacy gift? That means you leave something to be here after you're gone. So they're asking folks to start to think about that. Do you want to leave something for Unitarian Universalism, for this congregation after you're gone? And if you do, you should do something about that. We should all, even you young folks, should have a will. Everybody should have a will. So you could leave something in your will. You could have a life insurance policy. They talk about different kinds of things you could do. Now, some people say, well, I don't know if there'll be anything left by the time I die. Well, what you do then, you leave a percentage. And then if there's nothing, a percentage of zero is what? Zero. Yeah. So you leave a percentage. But he said, think about us, remember us in your will. And they have a form. Here it is. And here's how it goes. New legacy gift intentions designating one or more of the partner institutions. That's like the seminaries, mine and the other one, UUA itself, the service committee. So they have several things you possibly could leave it to, but also including the congregation, any UU congregation. So that's what we're trying to emphasize tonight too. If you, in your will or in a life insurance policy, leave something to this congregation, we will be eligible for a 10% matching cash gift up to $10,000. So for instance, if you left the congregation $5,000, then what will we get from UUA in a couple of years? They're going to do this within 2 years. They'll get the money back. $500, thank you, okay. Y'all do the math in your head, okay. So we'll get 10%. That adds up, folks. And if you give more or have something, you want to leave us your home, they'll value that, and we get the 10% of that. Now that can make a difference if we would do that. So it's something to think about. We're not going to really push this that heavily this fall. We're going to be focusing on our operational budget, but I wanted to share it with you and start talking to you about it. And then next year and other times, whenever you get around to it, hopefully soon, and do something with your will, which you need to do, then we'll give you some help in knowing how to word something so that you can leave something to the congregation, or if you want to some of these others as well. And we have to use their form. They want us to use their form after you do that. And then we'll also have to have a copy of your will, except not the whole will, but that page, or your, what do you call those when you add something up? Codicil, yeah. So that's how that works. And it's really sort of too good an opportunity to pass up, if you think about it. So I'm putting that out there. Well, they're going to give all this money. Where is all this matching money coming from? Some of you say, I didn't know the UUA had all that money. Well, they don't, okay? That's why they want some of it too. Is there a pot of gold at the end of the UU rainbow? Well, sort of. And here's where I'm going to share with you, I told you I was going to tell you about somebody that made a difference, UUs that make a difference each time you come this time. This is the story of Caroline Veach. This is where the pot of gold at the end of the UU rainbow comes from. Caroline Veach was described as a modest woman. She married Clifford Veach, a geologist, in 1902. And she followed her husband around in his travels till later they finally bought a permanent home in New York, planned on Long Island, now a suburb of New York City. They had no children. She became homebound because of spinal arthritis, which left her unable to walk. Her sister moved in with her, and her husband continued his travels. Starting in 1926, Arthur began to prospect for oil in the north part of Germany, and he acquired royalty rights to potential oil fields he discovered. He died in 1938. Now, this is just a picture I got off the internet. There were no oil fields at that time, but he had the royalty rights to potential oil fields in Germany. He left those to his wife, those royalty rights. Her physical therapist, meanwhile, had asked her to consider making a gift to her church's building program. Now, Caroline Veitch was not a Unitarian Universalist. She wasn't a Unitarian. She was an Episcopalian. But she thought it was a good idea, and she said, yes, I'll give y'all a gift. So she gladly made a donation to North Shore Unitarian Society. Well, after she made that donation, their minister was pretty smart. He thought, well, I need to go see this lady and thank her. That'd be a good thing to do. His name was Gerald Weary. Reverend Weary went to her home, expressed his great appreciation, enjoyed his visit with her. He kept visiting her. He continued his visits from 1945 to 1953. Eventually, she asked him to join the church, and they brought the book for her to sign. So she never set foot in the church, but she did join their church. She said, I want to be a member. Now, to make a very long story short, she left the church those oil rights in northern Germany, and later natural gas was discovered, making the payoff very great indeed, with that congregation receiving millions and millions every year. Every year. The congregation, now known as the Unitarian Congregation at Shelter Rock, places all these monies in the Veitch Fund, which provides grants for Unitarian Universalists and other programs too that enhance social justice and more. So they don't use it for their operational budget. They still have to have a budget drive too, but they put it in this Veitch Fund, and actually they've bailed out UUA a couple of times with it, but they have grants for varying things. And one of the things they wanted us to do, they wanted to encourage and try to stimulate others to think about that. Look what Caroline Veitch did. It had not been bringing in that much at all, just a few $1,000s a year, which wasn't a lot for the church, but then after this natural gas came along, wow, you may not know what you may have. But the idea is simply to think of giving, not only in your lifetime, but afterwards. So they're trying to encourage it, and this is the way they're doing it. They're trying to encourage it by saying, we're going to match these legacy gifts with 10%. So they have a form, and you decide which group you want to get the money. And of course, we're encouraging especially for you to think about, I love all these institutions. You can give it anything you want to, but certainly we want you to include the congregation as one of them too. So that's all about that. That's our incentive. We're going to email you more information. We have a few forms back there now if you want to pick up one. We don't have a lot right now, but we will get them for you and give you more information about this as you get ready to redo your will or write those codicils and include some UUA stuff. But that's for the future. That's for the future. What about 2018, which is right here upon us? Well, how do we look today? What's going on at our fellowship today? We've got some good things going on. Our congregation is growing. New members and friends, visitors and members are finding a home with us, and we're so glad that some of you found us here. Our religious education programs and children and youth have fabulous teachers, and we have a new coordinator of children, youth, and college ministries with us. There he is. Hey, Michael. We're going to have adult RE. We're going to start off with our kickoff this Saturday. We hope those of you that haven't signed up will think about doing that. Adore, that's a dialogue of, let me get this right, a dialogue of related to race and ethnicity. I didn't say that just right, but it's a good thing. So you come, what time, Justin?
9 a.m. on Saturday.
9 a.m. and bring $15. So we hope you'll come and join us. And then we're going to continue monthly to have these Adore conversations. We are renewing our choir, right? We got 17 people?
We have 22 people.
22 people have expressed an interest in being in our choir. Wow, wow, wow. How about that? Our new Body Mind Center is providing wonderful meditative practice for our UUFS community members, meditative practices, including meditation and yoga. Inga and I were talking about perhaps maybe we could do some Dances of Universal Peace eventually back there. So we've got some ideas about other ways we can use that wonderful place. And we are known for outreach and social justice and service to others. We've been doing a lot of different things that many of you can know about, that many of our members have been very heavily involved with in the community and beyond, and more. So we are doing a lot of good work, a lot of good stuff. So if these good things are going on and these things are happening, we must have enough, right? I have a secret to tell y'all, because it doesn't need to be a secret. We've kind of kept it a secret. We don't have this kind of money in our operational budget to do all these grand things I've just shared with you. The only reason we have been able to do many of these things is because a few people who see the need and have a passion for it agree to cover it if we can't do that in our regular budget. In fact, Michael's part-time position is covered only through December due to some extra money that someone agreed they would not take, that was due to somebody they agreed they would not take if we would hire him. And we didn't have the money to bring in Paula Cole Jones, and we've had to find out where we didn't spend it and who might can contribute more, and others have stepped up to the plate. This isn't the way to operate. These are good things we're doing, but we need to have money in our budget to cover these things. When we have for our programming, we ran out of our programming money very early on, didn't we? Yes. Our choir, we got a new choir. You know how much money we've got in the budget to buy music? $25. How much music will $25 buy you?
That's about a third of the choir's copies of one piece.
Of one piece. 1/3 of the choir's copies of one piece, okay? Now, fortunately, Eric has asked some of his friends to just donate some to help us out to get it started. But we've got grand possibilities going on with RE, with our youth, with our college ministries. We've got grand possibilities going on with adult RE that we want to do, with programming, with music. But we don't have these funded in our operational budget. We've been doing it by going around saying, can you give a little, can you give a little, can you give a little? And boy, that's getting kind of hard. So we need to put it in our operational budget. That's the way we need to operate. We need to say, yes, we can, instead of saying, can we do it? Can we do it? Please, please, please. So what am I asking you to do? Yes. Up yours. I'm asking you to up yours. Now, I know there are some folks in this room that can't do that. They're already stretched beyond what they can do, and that's okay. I'm not talking to you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything you do for us, both financially and in service. But for other folks, we'd like you to consider possibilities for increasing your pledges or finding other ways that you can share and volunteer with us, so that we can continue to do these kinds of things. So we're going to have our little canvas. We've got envelopes in the back, and I want to ask you to pick up one and maybe sign a little piece of paper if we can to get out there so we'll know who's picked one up. This is our finance committee. You see you have Justin and Sharon and Leon and Bill. They've helped us prepare the materials and proofed them, and we've got them in there. And here's what some of these things are. We got a cover letter that I hope you'll read that goes over some of the things that are important about our vision. We have something called our Time and Talents survey, where we ask you to share with us what are some things you're good at. Check some of the, let us know. Sometimes we don't know. And write some others in. What are you willing to take on or help us with? We have an appreciative inquiry canvas for your thoughts. Tell us, this is a good time while we're doing this, to tell us what are some things you like that we're doing well, that you appreciate, and what are some concerns you have or things you'd like for us to do differently? Let us know. Then we also have recommendations to the nominating committee. Now, this is a good time for me to share that Greg Brock was asked by the board to chair the nominating committee for this year, and we have to have a committee of another couple of folks. So Greg, if you'll tell Greg if you're interested in serving with him on the nominating committee, we would appreciate that. And folks can volunteer to be an officer, or you can put somebody else in and nominate that person. Might be a good idea to ask them first. But let us know. And then that committee they'll come up with names, one list of, what's it called? Slate, thank you. It wasn't bouncing in my head. A slate of officers that they'll bring in when we meet, and that will be theirs. We still always, of course, open it up to other nominations. Now, we also have, of course, not to leave out, many people say, well, I don't know what to give. You know, some people say, well, you should give, you know, you should look and give like for your cable bill or whatever. I don't know. Some people have different ways of figuring it out. But UUA has this nice giving guide, and I like it because it says, look at your annual income, and it's a progressive thing. That the idea is if you make more, that those people should be giving a bigger percentage, you know. So it's a progressive kind of thing, and it starts off with $10,000 and goes on up. And then it also looks at whether you think of yourself as a supporter or a sustainer or visionary, or some people may even want to tithe. Now, unlike a lot of churches, we don't ask for a tithe because we know a lot of you folks are giving to many other good charities as well. But we do ask you to consider these things and see where you might fit in there and what you may be able to give. Now, some people say, well, this year, though, I'm having a hard year because I've got a lot of child care or I've got an adult that I'm having to have care for and all that. Well, it says on that, well, then you subtract that off of it, you know, as you try to think about it. So it's not and it's just a suggestion. But many people need a suggestion to say, I'm not sure what I should give, and this is a suggestion. I personally think that if something like a congregation like ours, that for us to do the kind of work we need to do, I would love it if folks would begin to move toward the 5% level. Not that you get there all at once, but to move toward that. That's half of what other people have. That's just a Jane Page thing, though. That's not what you can click that off if you want to. But that's what I would like to see people reach for. We have a pledge card, and you just put your name on there and sign it. Now, all of this is in the bag, and you can bring that sack back to church, or you can mail it back in to our post office box if you want to. We don't have an extra envelope. You use the same one. For those of us that are more likely to fill something out if we do it on the internet, here's your option. You can go to our webpage, uustatesboro.org, and I'll be emailing this to everyone too, and emailing a link, okay? But if you're anxious to do this tonight, it's on there. See? Canvas forms right there. You go there and those forms are on there. Everything except the nominating form, you'll have to email Greg if the ideas about that, but the other forms are on there for you to complete. So, there we are, and it is easy as pie. You can easily do, you can do this tonight. But hopefully, you need to do it during this time, during the rest of this month, and maybe by mid-October, because we need to figure it all out so we can get a budget done, because on October 28th, we're going to have a party. We're going to celebrate that we've done well with this. And thankfully, Bill Herring has opened up his home. What time do you want us to come, Bill?
I hadn't thought that far.
He hasn't thought that far. He'll let us know. But we're going to go to Bill's house, and we're going to have a celebration, because we're going to do this thing. We're going to be ready to share the love. We have the resources. We're going to think positively. We're going to come out of a feeling of generosity and do what we can do. I have confidence that this congregation can meet these needs that we've talked about, and we'll all be the better for it. Breathe. Thank you.